The stars belong to someone else. That was the first lesson Earth learned when the alien ships arrived 300 years ago. Jack Morrison remembered the stories his grandmother told him about that day. How the massive vessel appeared in orbit, silent and threatening, broadcasting a simple message in every language humanity spoke. Stay in your solar system. You are not ready to join us. Do not leave or face extinction. Humanity had no choice but to obey. The Galactic Council, as they called themselves, had technology that made Earth's best weapons look like toys. They placed beacons around the solar system, warning markers that told the universe to stay away from the primitive humans. Any ship that tried to cross that invisible line was captured and dragged back. Any message sent to the stars was ignored. 3 centuries of isolation followed. 3 centuries of watching alien probes drift through their space, studying them like insects in a jar. 3 centuries of building ships and weapons, knowing they would never be enough but building them anyway, because humans were stubborn that way. They refused to accept that the cage was permanent. Jack commanded Guardian Prime, one of 12 defense stations orbiting Earth. He was 43 years old, his hair showing gray at the temples, his face marked with the stress of knowing his job was impossible. If the Council decided to attack, these stations would last maybe an hour, but they existed anyway, a symbol of human defiance. Lieutenant Amy Crawford worked the sensor station next to him. She was young, barely 30, with sharp eyes that missed nothing on her displays. Another probe just crossed into Mars orbit, she reported. Same pattern as yesterday. They are scanning our shipyards again. Jack watched the hologram showing the alien probe's path. The Council sent more probes every week now. Something was changing. After 300 years of stable isolation, the Council's attention on Earth was growing. That meant trouble. The Council only paid attention to species they considered threats. Track it, Jack ordered. If it gets within range of Luna Station, light it up with targeting lasers. I want them to know we are watching too. The probe continued its scan and left without incident, but Jack felt the weight of its presence like a stone in his stomach. Every year, humanity got better at building things. Better ships, stronger weapons, smarter computers, the Council noticed. And they were starting to worry about what humanity might become. Director Helen Pierce arrived at Guardian Prime that evening. She commanded the Unified Earth Space Command, which meant she was responsible for every military asset humanity possessed. She was a tall woman with dark skin and eyes that had seen too many classified reports about Council fleet movements. She entered Jack's office without knocking and pulled up a data file on his desk display. We intercepted something from one of our listening posts near Pluto. Council communications. Encrypted, but our computers cracked it 3 days ago. Jack studied the translation on his screen. The words made his blood cold. The Council was debating whether to sterilize Earth, complete extinction, burn the planet until nothing lived, then leave it as a warning to other species that might think about challenging their authority. They have done this before, Helen said quietly. 23 times in 12,000 years. 23 species wiped out because they refused to submit to Council authority. Why now? Jack asked. We have been here for 300 years. Because we keep pushing. Every year we build more ships. Every year we test their boundaries. They put us in a cage and expected us to accept it. Instead, we are shaking the bars. Helen pulled up another file showing Council fleet movements. They are assembling ships at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. 200 warships, maybe more. When they are ready, they will come. Jack felt sick. 200 Council warships against Earth's 53 military vessels and 12 defense stations. It would not be a battle. It would be an execution. How long do we have? He asked. 3 months, maybe 4. Helen sat down heavily in the chair across from his desk. We cannot win this fight, Jack. You know that. I know that. Every military analyst we have says the same thing. We have no chance. Then what do we do? Helen was quiet for a moment, then she said, Plan Exodus. We accelerated. Get the colony ships ready to launch within 2 months. Load them with as many people as we can and send them out into the dark. At least some part of humanity will survive. Plan Exodus was Earth's last resort. 12 massive colony ships, each carrying 10,000 people in suspended animation, hidden in the deep orbits beyond Neptune. They were designed to scatter in different directions, traveling to distant stars where the Council might never find them. Seeds of humanity planted in the cosmic void. What about everyone else? Jack asked. What about the 8 billion people on Earth? We evacuate as many as we can to underground shelters. The southern hemisphere has bunker systems that might survive orbital bombardment. It is not much, but it is something. Jack looked out the observation window at Earth below. The blue and white marble that had given birth to a species stubborn enough to build weapons they knew were useless. Stubborn enough to keep pushing against impossible odds. Stubborn enough to refuse extinction quietly. There has to be another way, he said. Helen shook her head. There is not. The council made their decision. Now we make ours. Do we die on our knees, begging for mercy they will not give? Or do we die on our feet, making them remember us? Jack knew what his answer would be. He had always known, from the moment he took command of Guardian Prime. If the council wanted to exterminate humanity, they would have to fight for it. Every ship, every station, every weapon humanity possessed would be thrown at them. It would not be enough to win, but it would be enough to hurt them. We fight, Jack said. We gather every ship we have. We arm every station. We prepare every weapon system, and when they come, we make them bleed for every meter of space they take. Helen nodded slowly. I will issue the mobilization orders. All military personnel recalled to duty. All civilian ships converted to military use. Every railgun, every missile, every laser battery brought online. She stood to leave, then paused at the door. Jack, we are about to start a war we cannot win. I know, Jack replied. But at least the galaxy will know we tried. At least someone will remember that humanity refused to go quietly into extinction. After Helen left, Jack remained at the observation window for a long time, watching Earth turn below him. 300 years ago, humanity had been told to stay in their cage. Now the cage was about to become a killing field. But humans had never been good at accepting their fate. They would fight and they would fall, but they would not be forgotten. The council was about to learn what happened when you backed humans into a corner. The council fleet arrived on a Tuesday morning. Admiral Greg Hamilton watched them appear on his tactical display like ghosts materializing from nothing. 247 warships, each one massive enough to dwarf Earth's largest space stations. They came out of quantum jump at the edge of the solar system, their formation perfect, their intent clear. Greg commanded the ESS Defiance, humanity's flagship and the largest warship Earth had ever built. The ship was 20 years old, constructed in orbit around the moon with the best technology humanity could manage. Against the Council fleet, it was nothing. A rowboat facing a hurricane. But it was all they had. Captain Lisa Morgan stood at her station, checking readouts with steady hands despite the fear Greg knew she felt. All defense stations report ready. Civilian evacuation is at 93% complete. Everyone who can reach the bunkers is already there. Greg studied the enemy formation on the holographic display. The Council ships hung in space like ancient gods preparing to pass judgment on lesser beings. They sent no messages, made no demands. Their weapons charging up said everything that needed saying. Send them one last transmission, Greg ordered. Tell them we are willing to negotiate. Tell them we will accept their terms if they spare Earth. Lisa looked at him with surprise. They both knew the Council would not respond. They had not answered any human communication in 300 years. But Greg wanted it on the record. He wanted the universe to know that humanity had tried peace first. The message was sent. Silence followed as expected. Then the Council fleet began targeting Earth's orbital assets. Energy signatures spiked across their formation as weapons powered up. Weapons that could crack planets and boil oceans. All ships, Greg broadcast on every channel. Execute attack plan. Make every shot count. For Earth. The human fleet consisted of 53 warships ranging from the massive Defiance down to small frigates barely larger than commercial freighters. Each ship carried weapons that Earth scientists hoped might penetrate advanced alien shields. Railguns that fired metal slugs at incredible speeds, nuclear-tipped missiles, experimental plasma weapons, conventional explosives that seemed primitive but might work through sheer volume. The ESS Defiance fired first. Its main railgun sent a slug the size of a bus screaming across space faster than anything that large had a right to move. The projectile covered millions of kilometers in seconds and slammed into a Council destroyer's shields. The shields held, but they flickered. For just a moment, they showed weakness. All ships concentrate fire on that destroyer, Section Charlie 79, Greg shouted. Everything we have, same target. 53 human ships opened fire at once. Every weapon system humanity possessed focused on a single point in space. The emptiness between Earth and the Council fleet lit up with fire and energy. Missiles streaked toward the target. Railgun slugs followed trajectories calculated by the best computers Earth could build. Laser beams painted the void with deadly light. The Council destroyer's shields lasted 10 seconds under that concentrated barrage. Then they collapsed. 3 nuclear missiles got through the gap. The alien ship's hull, unprotected for a brief moment, absorbed the full force of the explosions. Metal tore apart. Internal systems ruptured. The destroyer came apart in silence, pieces tumbling through space. Humanity had drawn first blood against the Galactic Council. The celebration lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then the Council returned fire. Admiral Greg Hamilton had seen combat simulations of Council weapons. The reality was worse. Green beams of pure energy lanced out from the alien fleet, each one powerful enough to erase a ship from existence. The ESS Courage, a destroyer near Mars, took a direct hit. It did not explode. It simply stopped existing, converted to plasma in an instant. 4 more human ships died in the first minute. Then 7 more. Then 12. The Council's advantage in technology and firepower was overwhelming. But humanity kept fighting because that was the only choice that made sense. Defense stations opened fire with their heavy weapons. Automated satellites throughout the solar system, thousands of them hidden and waiting, launched their attack runs. Every missile silo, every railgun platform, every laser battery that humanity had prepared for this day, fired at the invading fleet. The Council had expected a quick slaughter. What they got was a desperate battle. Commander Kate Hughes piloted her fighter, Lucky 7, through debris that had been a human warship minutes before. Her squadron was one of 20 fighter groups launched from the defense stations. Small craft against massive capital ships. Insects attacking elephants, but even elephants could be hurt by enough insects. "Target their sensor arrays," she shouted to her wingman, Lieutenant Paul Drake. "Blind them if we can." The fighters were fast and small enough to dodge most of the Council's anti-fighter defenses. Most, but not all. Kate watched 3 of her squadron die in as many seconds, caught by point defense lasers. But the survivors pressed on, launching their missiles at the towering alien warships. One fighter, piloted by a volunteer whose name Kate never learned, loaded itself with an experimental antimatter bomb. The pilot flew straight into a Council frigate's engine port. The explosion that followed crippled the massive ship, leaving it dead in space. Admiral Greg Hamilton knew the numbers. Every tactical projection showed human extinction within 6 hours. But 6 hours was better than 6 minutes. 6 hours meant more people reached the shelters. 6 hours meant the colony ships had time to finish their launch preparations and scatter to the stars. 6 hours meant humanity could show the galaxy what happened when you tried to exterminate them. "Sir, incoming transmission," Lisa Morgan said, surprise clear in her voice. "From the Council flagship. They are hailing us." Greg straightened in his command chair. After 300 years of silence, the Council was finally talking. "Put it through." The face that appeared on the view screen was alien in every way. 6 eyes arranged in a triangle, skin that shifted between blue and purple, a mouth structure that suggested sharp teeth hidden behind flexible lips. This was High Counselor Zarn, leader of the Council fleet. "Humans," the translated voice said, cold and measured. "You have surprised us. We expected submission. We received defiance. You have destroyed 3 of our ships and damaged 17 more. This is unprecedented from a species at your technological level." Greg said nothing, waiting to hear what came next. "However," Zarn continued, "you cannot win. You know this. We know this. Why do you persist in this futile resistance? Accept extinction with dignity. Stop this pointless fighting." "Because we are human," Greg replied simply. "We do not surrender. We do not quit. You want to exterminate us? Fine. But we will take as many of you with us as we can. And somewhere in this galaxy, someone will hear about us. Someone will know that humanity fought back against the mighty Council, and maybe they will fight back too." Zarn's expression was unreadable to human eyes, but something in his tone changed. "Your species is dangerous. The Council was correct to order your extinction. After this display, we are certain of it. You will serve as an example to others who might consider defiance." "Then finish it," Greg challenged. "But know that every ship you lose, every life we take, will be remembered. We will make you pay for this." The transmission ended. The Council fleet advanced. their formation tightening as they prepared for the final assault. Greg watched them come and felt a strange calm settle over him. He was going to die. His ship was going to die. Probably his entire species was going to die. But they would die fighting, and that had to mean something. All ships, final defensive line, he ordered. Form up around Earth. Make them come through us to reach the planet. The surviving human warships, battered and burning, moved into position. 17 ships left from the original 53. The defense stations added their fire to the formation. It would not be enough, but it would have to do. The Council fleet opened fire with everything they had. Space became a storm of energy and destruction, and humanity, stubborn and defiant to the end, fired back. Dr. Ryan Clark worked in a secret facility carved deep into Neptune's largest moon. He had spent 10 years of his life on Plan Exodus, preparing the colony ships that would carry fragments of humanity to distant stars. But 3 months ago, he discovered something that changed everything. His research partner, Dr. Claire Bennett, stood next to him in the laboratory, studying the data displayed across multiple screens. "Are you absolutely sure about this?" she asked. "If you are wrong, we are throwing away our only chance to save some of humanity." Ryan pulled up files on his workstation. Information gathered from intercepted Council transmissions. Decoded messages that had taken months to translate. Archaeological evidence from crashed Council probes. I am sure. The Galactic Council is not what we think they are. What Ryan had discovered was simple and terrible. The Galactic Council was dying. Not physically, but in every other way that mattered. The 14 species that ruled the galaxy were all ancient. Their populations were stable but aging. Their cultures had stopped growing thousands of years ago. Their technology had not advanced in centuries. They controlled the galaxy not through strength but through fear. They made sure no young species ever developed enough to challenge them. Any civilization that showed signs of rapid advancement or aggressive expansion was eliminated. Sterilized. Erased from the universe as a warning to others. "Look at the pattern," Ryan explained, showing Claire historical data he had pieced together. In 12,000 years, the Council has encountered 47 spacefaring species. 24 were allowed to join as subordinate members. 23 were completely destroyed. Claire studied the data carefully. What determined which ones survived and which ones died? Simple. The ones who accepted their place survived. The ones who refused, who kept pushing boundaries and developing weapons, were eliminated. Ryan pulled up more files. But here is the interesting part. The Council is terrified. Their internal communications show constant worry about maintaining control. They know their empire is fragile. "They are afraid of us," Claire said, understanding dawning in her eyes. "That is why they are sending such a massive fleet. They need to make absolutely certain we are destroyed." "Exactly, because if we survive, if we prove that the Council can be resisted, their entire system collapses. Other species will start asking questions, start pushing back. The myth of Council invincibility is the only thing holding their empire together." Brian had spent weeks preparing a data package, everything he had learned about the Council, evidence of their past genocides, proof that their empire was built on fear rather than strength, information about their weaknesses and fears, all compressed into a quantum-entangled signal that could broadcast across the entire galaxy. "If we send this transmission, every advanced species within 10,000 light-years will receive it," Ryan said. "They will know the truth about the Council. But sending it requires enormous power. The only source strong enough is a colony ship's fusion reactor." Claire understood what that meant. If we use a colony ship's reactor for the transmission, we burn it out. That ship cannot make the journey. 10,000 people will be stranded here when the Council comes back. "I know," Ryan said quietly, "but those 10,000 people might save billions, maybe trillions. If other suppressed species learn the truth, if they start resisting together, the Council cannot stop them all." He contacted Director Helen Pierce through the secure quantum channel, transmitted all his findings, and waited for her response. It came within an hour. "Do it," Helen's message said. "Use Colony Ship 7, but give the passengers a choice. Anyone who wants to stay can stay. Anyone who wants to transfer to another colony ship gets that option. We do not sacrifice people without their consent." Ryan initiated the transfer protocol. Over the next 6 hours, while humanity's fleet fought desperately above Earth, the passengers on Colony Ship 7 were given a choice. Stay and be part of the transmission that would tell the galaxy the truth. or transfer to another ship and try to survive in the darkness between stars. 8,462 people chose to transfer. 1,538 chose to stay. They knew what it meant. The reactor would burn itself out sending the transmission. Life support would fail within a few months. But they chose to stay anyway because the message was more important than their individual survival. Ryan and Claire were among those who stayed. "We could have left," Claire said as they prepared the transmission array. "We could be on another colony ship right now heading to safety." "We could have," Ryan agreed. "But this is bigger than us. This is about making sure humanity's voice reaches across the galaxy. This is about telling the truth that the Council has tried to hide for 12,000 years. The colony ship's fusion reactor began its overload sequence. The quantum-entangled burst transmitter powered up, drawing energy faster than the reactor was designed to provide. The ship began to glow, visible from Earth as a new star birthed in the outer solar system. "Transmission ready," Claire announced. All data packages loaded. Translation matrices set for every known language pattern, broadcasting on every frequency we can generate. Ryan looked at the control panel one last time. One button press would send everything they had learned to the stars, would tell the galaxy that the Council was not invincible, that they had committed genocide 23 times to maintain their power. That resistance was possible. He pressed the button. The colony ship's reactor released everything at once. Energy flooded into the quantum-entangled transmitter, which converted it into a signal that propagated across space faster than light itself. The message burst out in every direction, carrying the truth about the Galactic Council to every corner of the galaxy. The transmission lasted 30 seconds. In that brief time, Colony Ship 7 became the brightest object in the solar system after the sun. Then the reactor went dark, burned out, and dead. Emergency power kicked in, giving the ship enough life support for a few more months. But the mission was complete. 1,538 people sat in the darkness of a dead ship and knew they had changed the galaxy. "Do you think anyone will hear it?" Claire asked quietly. "Someone will," Ryan replied. "Somewhere out there another species is living under Council oppression. They will receive our message. They will learn the truth. And maybe they will do what we did. Maybe they will fight back." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the hum of emergency power and the quiet breathing of the other passengers around them. They had months to live, maybe less if the Council came back to finish what they started. But those months would be spent knowing they had struck a blow that echoed across the stars. In the secret facility on Neptune's moon, the other colony ships completed their final preparations. 11 vessels loaded with humanity's future began their journey into the unknown. They scattered in different directions, each one carrying hope that somewhere, some fragment of human civilization would survive. Back on Earth, the battle continued. Ships burned. Stations exploded. People died by the thousands. But in the outer solar system, a message flew toward the stars at speeds beyond comprehension. A message that said humanity had existed, that humanity had fought, that humanity had refused to die quietly. The Galactic Council had tried to keep the younger species isolated and ignorant. They had tried to maintain their empire through fear and overwhelming force. But they had made one critical mistake. They had not counted on humanity's stubborn refusal to accept their fate. And they had not counted on humans being willing to sacrifice everything to make sure the truth survived. The transmission spread across the galaxy like light breaking through darkness. And on 100 worlds in 1,000 secret places, other species received the message and began to wonder if the Council's power was as absolute as they had been told. The war for the galaxy's future had begun. Not with massive fleets or advanced weapons, but with information, with truth, with the simple message that resistance was possible. And that message, carried on quantum waves across impossible distances, would change everything. Admiral Greg Hamilton never expected to see the 5th hour of battle. By then, humanity's fleet had been reduced to 17 ships from the original 53. The ESS Defiance had taken hits that should have destroyed it, hull breaches on multiple decks, weapons systems operating at 30% capacity, life support failing in sections of the ship. But the Council fleet had suffered too. 21 ships destroyed completely, 43 damaged badly enough that they had withdrawn from the battle. The invaders had expected to crush humanity in minutes. Instead, they had been fighting for hours against an enemy that refused to die. Captain Lisa Morgan worked her station despite the smoke filling the bridge. "Sir, priority transmission coming in from Neptune base. They have executed the information broadcast. The message is going out across the galaxy." Greg felt something like satisfaction through his exhaustion. Even if Earth fell today, the truth would survive. Other species would learn what the Council really was. That had to count for something. "Admiral, multiple quantum signatures detected," the sensor officer suddenly announced. "New ships entering the system. 7 contacts. They are not Council design." Greg's heart jumped. Had someone received their distress signals? Was help actually arriving? 7 ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. They were smaller than Council warships but larger than human vessels. Their design was angular and aggressive, covered in weapon ports. These were ships built for war. A transmission came through. The voice was rough, speaking English with an accent Greg had never heard before. "Human vessels, this is Captain Vorn of the Kryn Republic. We received your broadcast about the Council. We know what they did to your species, what they have done to dozens of species. We are here to help you fight. The Kryn Republic." Greg knew the name from intelligence reports. They were one of the Council's subject races, conquered 4,000 years ago. They served as military contractors for the Council, carrying out enforcement actions against other species. They had a reputation for being fierce warriors who followed Council orders without question. "This could be a trick," Lisa warned quietly. "The Council might have sent them to finish us." But Greg looked at the tactical display and saw something that made him believe it was real. The 7 Kryn ships had positioned themselves between what remained of the human fleet and the Council forces. Their weapons were active and targeting the Council warships. "Captain Vorn," Greg transmitted back, "you are committing treason against the Council. They will hunt you down for this." "Let them try," Vorn's voice came back. "We have served the Council for 4,000 years. 4,000 years of being their attack dogs. 4,000 years of killing other species because the Council ordered it. Your broadcast showed us the truth. Showed us we were not alone in wanting freedom. The Council does not deserve our loyalty anymore." The Kryn ships opened fire on their former masters. Their weapons were Council technology, turned against the fleet that had once commanded them. 2 Council cruisers exploded in the first volley, their shields overwhelmed by attackers they never expected to face. Chaos erupted across the Council formation. Ships that had been advancing on Earth suddenly found themselves fighting on 2 fronts. They had to defend against both the desperate humans and the betraying Kryn. Their careful formation broke apart. Their coordinated assault collapsed into scattered fighting. "All human ships, press the attack," Greg ordered. "Target their command ships. Make them hurt." The ESS Defiance, its hull scarred and burning, surged forward. Humanity's 17 surviving warships followed, their crews finding new strength in the unexpected help. They were not just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting alongside allies. They were fighting to win. High Counselor Zarn watched his fleet falling apart and felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Fear. Real fear. The humans were supposed to be eliminated as a lesson to other species. Instead, they had become a symbol. The Kryn betrayal proved it. Humanity's resistance was spreading. Other species would hear about this. Other suppressed civilizations would learn that the Council could be fought. The entire foundation of Council power, built on the myth of invincibility, was cracking. "All ships withdraw immediately," Zarn ordered. "Full retreat to the rally point outside the system." The Council fleet, or what remained of it, began emergency jump procedures. They had come with 247 ships to exterminate 1 primitive species. They were leaving with less than half that number, defeated not by superior technology, but by the simple refusal of humans to accept their own extinction. As the last Council ship vanished into quantum space, Greg collapsed back into his command chair. His hands were shaking. His ship was dying around him. But they had won. Against impossible odds, humanity had survived. "Captain Vorn," Greg transmitted. "Thank you. You saved our species today." "You saved ours," Vorn replied. "For 4,000 years we believed the Council was invincible. That resistance was impossible. You showed us the truth. That broadcast you sent, it is spreading across the galaxy right now. Other subject species are hearing it. Learning what the Council really is. The Empire is starting to crack. What will you do now?" Greg asked. "We go home. We prepare for the war that is coming. Because the Council will not accept this defeat. They will come back stronger. But next time, they will not face just humanity. They will face everyone they have suppressed, everyone they have lied to, everyone they have ruled through fear and genocide. The cringe ships prepared to leave. Before they jumped away, Vorn sent one final message. Your people have a saying we learned from your broadcasts. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. You have friends now, Admiral. More than you know. Remember that when the dark times come. The ships vanished into quantum space, leaving humanity alone in their solar system once more. But it was a different kind of alone. The Council's blockade was broken. Their myth of invincibility was shattered. And across the galaxy, species that had lived under Council oppression were learning that resistance was possible. Director Helen Pierce arrived at the ESS Defiance 3 days later. The ship was still in orbit around Earth, undergoing emergency repairs. Memorial services were being held across the planet for the millions who had died in the orbital bombardment and the ships that had been lost. We have received over 200 transmissions in the past 72 hours, Helen told Greg as they stood in what remained of his ready room. Most of them encrypted, from species we never knew existed. They all say the same thing. They received our broadcast. They know the truth about the Council, and they want to discuss forming an alliance. Greg looked at her with tired eyes. An alliance to do what? To finish what we started, Helen replied. The Council has ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years through fear and military superiority. We proved they can be hurt. We proved they can be resisted. Now other species want to try. The Council will not allow that, Greg said. They will come back with everything they have. They will bring fleets that make this attack look small. Probably, Helen agreed. But they cannot be everywhere at once. If multiple species rebel at the same time across different regions of space, the Council will have to split their forces. And if we work together, share technology and tactics, we might actually have a chance. Greg thought about the battle they had just survived, thought about the ships they had lost and the people who had died, thought about how close humanity had come to complete extinction, and he thought about the cringe ships that had arrived to help, proof that humanity was not alone anymore. Set up the meeting, he said finally. Invite every species that contacted us. Find a neutral location where we can talk without the Council finding us. If we are going to do this, we need to do it right. Helen smiled, the first real smile he had seen from her in months. Already done. The Kryn are providing a hidden station in the Orion Nebula. 37 species have confirmed they are sending representatives. We are calling it the Liberation Council. Liberation Council, Greg repeated. I like it. When does it convene? 2 weeks. Can you be ready to represent humanity? Greg looked out at Earth through the damaged viewport. The planet that had birthed a species too stubborn to accept extinction. Yes, tell them humanity will be there. Commander Jack Morrison traveled to the Orion Nebula 2 weeks after the Battle of Earth. He had been chosen to represent humanity at the Liberation Council because he commanded Guardian Prime, the first defense station to engage the Council fleet. He embodied the stubborn human refusal to submit that had inspired rebellion across the galaxy. The meeting took place aboard a massive Kryn station, hidden deep within the nebula's gas clouds where Council sensors could not reach. The station had been stripped from Council control in a lightning raid, one of the first acts of open rebellion after humanity's broadcast. Jack entered the Council chamber and stopped, overwhelmed by what he saw. The room was enormous, designed to hold representatives from dozens of different species. Some breathed the same air as humans. Others existed in sealed environmental tanks. Some appeared through holographic projection because their natural forms could not survive in the station's atmosphere. 37 species had sent representatives. 37 civilizations that had lived under Council oppression, all gathered in one place for the first time. The sight was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Captain Vorn of the Kryn Republic called the meeting to order. His species had paid a heavy price for helping humanity. 3 of their colony worlds had been attacked by Council forces in retaliation, but they had held their ground, and other species had risen to support them. We gather here because humans showed us something we had forgotten, Vorn began, his voice carrying through translation systems. They showed us that the powerful can be resisted, that ancient tyranny can be challenged, that extinction is not certain for those who refuse to kneel. Jack listened as representative after representative stood to share their story. The Thrace were an insect species that had been conquered 7,000 years ago. Their warrior culture had been broken and reformed into servitude. The Delmar were aquatic beings who had been prevented from colonizing new ocean worlds for 3,000 years. The Vex were methane breathers whose scientific advancement had been artificially limited because the Council feared their technology. Every species had the same story: isolation, suppression, the constant threat of extinction if they pushed too hard. Against their boundaries, the Council maintained power by making each suppressed species believe they were alone, that resistance was impossible, that submission was the only way to survive. The human broadcast broke that isolation, said Representative Kath of the Thrace. Now we see that we are many and they are few. Now we understand that the Council rules through fear, not strength. The strategic reality was harsh. The Council core species numbered 14, with a combined military force of approximately 5,000 warships. The rebellion could potentially field twice that number if every represented species committed their full military strength. But the Council had better technology, established infrastructure, and 12,000 years of experience running an empire. We cannot win a direct war, Jack admitted when it was his turn to speak. Not yet. Humanity learned that lesson the hard way. We survived because of desperation, luck, and unexpected help from the Kryn. But if the Council returns with their full force, organized and prepared for our resistance, they will crush us. Then what do you propose? Asked the Delmar representative, her voice bubbling through water-filled translation systems. We cannot return to submission. Not after we have tasted freedom. Jack pulled up a holographic star map showing the galaxy. The Council's territory was concentrated in the core, a dense region of space they had controlled for millennia. The rebellious species were scattered throughout the outer arms and rim regions. We use distance against them, Jack explained. The Council cannot be everywhere simultaneously. They have maintained their empire through the threat of overwhelming force applied to any single point of resistance. But what if multiple species rebel at once across different regions of space? Vorn understood immediately. A coordinated uprising. Strike everywhere at the same time. Force them to divide their fleet. Exactly. And while they are scrambling to respond, we build our own infrastructure. Shipyards, communication networks, trade routes. We create an alternative to the Council's order. We prove the galaxy does not need them. The debate lasted 3 days. Some species wanted immediate action. Others counseled patience. The Thrace warriors wanted to attack Council military installations. The Vex scientists wanted to focus on technological development first. The Delmar advocated for economic warfare, cutting off the Council from resources in the outer systems. Finally, they reached agreement on a 5-year plan. 5 years to build up forces, establish secure communication networks, and prepare for a coordinated galaxy-wide uprising. Maintaining secrecy would be difficult for that long. The Council would discover their preparations eventually, but 5 years would give them a chance to be ready when confrontation came. There is one more thing, Jack said as the conference approached its end. Earth proposes establishing a free university, a place where all species can send their best scientists and engineers to share knowledge and technology. The Council kept us isolated, prevented us from learning from each other. That has to end. The proposal was accepted enthusiastically. The University of Orion would become a symbol of the new order they were building. One based on cooperation rather than domination, on shared knowledge rather than enforced ignorance. Jack returned to Earth carrying hope for the first time since the Council's fleet had appeared in their system. Humanity was not alone anymore. They had allies. They had a plan, and they had 5 years to prepare for the war that was coming. Back on Earth, Admiral Greg Hamilton oversaw construction of a new fleet. This time, humanity was not building alone. Kryn engineers shared advanced shield technology. Thrace metallurgists helped design stronger armor. Vex scientists contributed new weapon systems that pushed the boundaries of known physics. The ESS Defiance was rebuilt and renamed the ESS Unity. It would serve as the flagship of the Liberation Fleet when the time came. The ship incorporated technology from a dozen different species, a physical manifestation of what they were building together. 5 years passed faster than anyone expected. The Council, aware of the growing rebellion but unable to strike everywhere at once, focused on strengthening their core territories. They pulled back their outlying forces. They abandoned their monitoring of isolated species. They prepared for the war they knew was inevitable. When the day finally arrived, humanity fired the first shot. The ESS Unity, along with 200 ships from a dozen different species, jumped into the Aldrin system. This was a Council stronghold that guarded one of the major hyperspace routes into the core territories. Jack Morrison, promoted to fleet commander, stood on the bridge of the Unity as they emerged from quantum space. Before them hung a Council battle station, surrounded by 50 warships. All ships, Jack transmitted across the Liberation Fleet. Today, we do not fight for survival. We fight for freedom, for every species the Council has suppressed, for every world they have sterilized, for every voice they have silenced. Make them remember that tyranny always falls eventually. The battle was fierce but brief. The Liberation Fleet fought with combined tactics that the Council had never faced before. They used Kryn shield technology to protect against Council weapons. They employed Thrace boarding tactics to capture ships instead of destroying them. They used Vex electronic warfare to blind Council sensors. The battle station fell within 3 hours. The hyperspace route was opened, and news of the victory spread across the galaxy within minutes. On 100 worlds, suppressed populations rose up against Council overseers. In dozens of systems, Council ships mutinied, their crews refusing to fight for a regime built on lies and genocide. The rebellion that had started with one species refusing to die quietly had become a galaxy-wide revolution. The war lasted 3 more years. There were setbacks and losses, moments when defeat seemed certain, but the Liberation Council held together, bound by shared determination to end 12,000 years of tyranny. And when it finally ended, when High Counselor Zarn stood before them to sign the Treaty of Surrender, the galaxy was changed forever. High Counselor Zarn stood before the representatives of 37 species and prepared to sign the document that would end 12,000 years of Council rule. His 6 eyes, arranged in their triangular pattern, looked at each representative in turn. When his gaze reached Jack Morrison representing humanity, he paused. Perhaps this was always inevitable, Zarn said quietly. Perhaps empires built on fear were always destined to fall. Your species, human, was the catalyst, but you were not unique. Given enough time, someone would have challenged us eventually. The cycle would have turned regardless. Jack met his gaze steadily. Maybe you are right, but we are the ones who did it. And that makes all the difference. Zarn signed the treaty with a device that looked nothing like a human pen. The document became official. The Galactic Council, which had ruled through intimidation and genocide for 12 millennia, was dissolved. In its place would rise a new federation based on voluntary membership and mutual cooperation. The Council species were allowed to join as equals, not masters. Most accepted the offer, understanding that isolation meant death in the new galaxy that was forming. A few retreated to their core worlds bitter and defeated, choosing to remain apart from the civilization they once dominated. The war had cost millions of lives across dozens of species. Earth itself bore scars that would take generations to heal. 3 million humans had died in the first Council attack. Thousands more had been lost in the 3 years of war that followed. But humanity had survived, and more importantly, they had helped free an entire galaxy from tyranny. Ambassador Jack Morrison stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, the new capital of the Galactic Federation. The station floated in neutral space, positioned between the former territories of dozens of species. He watched ships from hundreds of different worlds coming and going. Trade vessels, diplomatic shuttles, scientific research ships, all moving freely for the first time in recorded galactic history. Captain Vorn joined him at the viewport. The Kryn warrior had become one of humanity's closest friends during the war. His species had paid a terrible price for their rebellion. 5 of their worlds had been destroyed before the Council finally fell, but they had never wavered in their support of the Liberation Council. Your species paid a heavy price for this freedom, Vorn said, looking out at the busy space lanes. 3 million dead in the first battle. Your homeworld scarred by orbital bombardment. Was it worth it? Jack thought carefully before answering. He thought about the memorial garden below, where every human who died in the Battle of Earth had their name inscribed in stone. He thought about the colony ships still traveling toward distant stars, carrying fragments of humanity to worlds they would not reach for centuries. He thought about the University of Orion, where young minds from 100 species learned to work together instead of fighting. Ask me again in 100 years, Jack replied. Right now we are still counting the cost. But I think future generations will say it was worth it. We did not just save ourselves. We changed the galaxy. Vorn made a rumbling sound that translated as agreement. Your species has a phrase that I have come to appreciate. The arc of history is long, but it bends toward justice. I think I finally understand what that means. It means keep fighting, keep hoping, and eventually things get better, Jack said with a smile. Not very philosophical, but it seems to work. It worked well enough to overthrow the oldest empire in galactic history, Vorn pointed out. Perhaps simple philosophy is better than complicated tyranny. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the traffic of a new era pass by the viewport. Below them, in the Federation Assembly Chamber, representatives from 200 species were debating trade agreements and scientific cooperation programs. It was messy and chaotic and inefficient, everything the old council had claimed to protect the galaxy from. But it was free, and that freedom made all the chaos worthwhile. The door to the observation deck opened and Director Helen Pierce entered. She had been promoted to Secretary General of the Galactic Federation, chosen because Earth's sacrifice had earned humanity a voice in galactic affairs. She looked tired but satisfied. The final vote just came through, she announced. The Resource Sharing Initiative passed. 12 council species voted in favor. The age of hoarding technology is officially over. Jack felt a surge of satisfaction. The Resource Sharing Initiative meant that all species would have access to advanced technology that the council had once kept restricted. Medicine, power generation, transportation, knowledge that could have saved billions of lives over the millennia, but had been locked away to maintain council superiority. How long until we start seeing results? Jack asked. The Vex have already transmitted their medical database to the network, Helen replied. Cures for diseases that have plagued dozens of species for thousands of years. The Kryn are sharing shield technology that will protect colony ships from radiation and meteor strikes. The Thrace are opening their agricultural techniques to anyone who wants them. And humanity? Vorn asked. What does your species contribute to this sharing? Jack smiled. Stubbornness mostly. And the willingness to try impossible things just to see if they work. Plus, our engineers have some interesting ideas about ship propulsion that might make interstellar travel faster and cheaper. Helen pulled up a holographic display showing the Federation's current territory. 200 member species spread across most of the galaxy. Some regions remained independent, either by choice or because they had not yet been contacted. But the map showed something unprecedented in galactic history. Cooperation on a massive scale. The University of Orion has 15,000 students now, Helen said, from 80 different species. They are working on projects that would have been impossible under council rule. Hybrid technologies that combine the best ideas from multiple civilizations. Any breakthroughs? Jack asked. Several. A joint human-Vex team just developed a new quantum communication system that can transmit across the entire galaxy instantly. No more waiting months or years for messages to arrive. A Kryn-Delmar collaboration created a terraforming technique that can convert barren worlds to habitable planets in decades instead of centuries. And a Thrace human medical team found a way to extend the lifespan of carbon-based species by 40%. Jack felt a wave of emotion he could not quite name. Hope, maybe, or vindication. For 300 years, humanity had been told they were not ready to join the galactic community, that they needed to stay in their cage and wait until the council decided they were civilized enough. Now humanity was helping to build a civilization better than anything the council had created. What about the council remnants? Vorn asked. The species that refused to join the Federation? Helen's expression darkened slightly. They are still in their core territories. About 2,000 ships and a dozen heavily fortified worlds. They have not attacked anyone, but they have not surrendered their weapons either. Intelligence suggests they are planning something. Let them plan, Jack said. They represent the old way. Fear and domination and artificial hierarchy. We represent something new. If they attack, they will face not just humanity, but every species in the Federation. They learned that lesson once. I doubt they want to learn it again. Still, Helen said carefully, we should remain vigilant. The Council ruled for 12,000 years. That kind of power does not disappear overnight. There will be remnants, holdouts, species loyal to the old order. The war may be over, but the struggle is not. Jack nodded. Then we stay ready. We keep building. We keep cooperating. We prove every single day that the Federation is better than the Council ever was. A chime sounded from the station's communication system. Helen checked her datapad and smiled. The dedication ceremony is starting. We should go. They left the observation deck and made their way to the memorial garden at the center of Unity Station. This was hallowed ground, a place where every species remembered those who had died fighting for freedom. The garden contained living plants from dozens of worlds, all growing together in carefully maintained environments. At the center stood a monument of black stone, its surface inscribed with names. Millions of names. Every being who had died in the war against the Council. Humans, Kryn, Thrace, Delmar, Vex, and dozens of other species, all honored equally. The dedication ceremony was simple. Representatives from each species placed a token at the base of the monument. For humanity, Jack placed a small stone from Guardian Prime, the defense station where the first shots had been fired. Other species placed similar tokens, seeds from homeworlds, pieces of destroyed ships, personal items from fallen warriors. We remember, Helen said, speaking for all of them. We remember those who fell so that we could stand free. We remember the price of liberty, and we promise never to let tyranny rise again. The crowd, composed of beings from hundreds of worlds, stood in silence for 1 minute. Then they dispersed, returning to their ships and stations and lives. But the memory remained, carved in stone and preserved for all time. Jack stayed at the monument after the others left, reading names he recognized. Crew members from the ESS Defiance, fighter pilots who had died in the desperate battle for Earth. Scientists from Colony Ship 7 who had sacrificed themselves to